Hey guys, welcome to Celia's playlist. I am here today with Trey of Sin Seer. How you doing, Trey?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So I know that we're going to talk. We're going to talk a lot and we're going to get into this, but for everyone to have context of you, can you tell me a little bit about your musical history and your project?
I'm one half of a heavy metal group called Sin Seer. We started we started writing around 2015. We put out our first EP 2018, and we've been active ever since. Just a little bit around outside of the Austin, Texas area, and really it was just a little project really that kind of just slowly morphed and evolved into what it is today. So I think really it was in the beginning we were really just trying to put some music out just for ourselves, and it got such a strong reaction that we kind of just kept it going, and you know, as you know, as they say, the rest is history. So here we are. But yeah, it's pretty much just it. I mean, we're just two simple dudes who met in high school, loved heavy music, and just been rocking it ever since.
Very cool. So I want to I have like multiple questions for you about heavy music like this because when we were making one of the playlists, one of your songs came on and we were like, we wish we know what this song was like totally about because
Yeah,
it probably has like this amazing story to it or this amazing like the lyrics or for
yeah,
instance but like since it's heavy it's very stylized, so
right.
like can you tell me a little bit about what your music is about and where some of your inspirations come from?
Well, so I grew up listening to a lot of the bands from the new metal area. So bands like Korn, Slipknot, Mudvayne. A lot of those guys were very transparent with the way they wrote. They didn't really hide behind any kind of like metaphors or any abstract thoughts. It was really just put what you're feeling out on paper, kind of thing. So that was kind of where I sort of just learned that. I guess it was for me. It was just a cathartic process of just getting all of that negative stuff out, which is why I think a lot of people when they hear it, it sounds angry and it sounds aggressive, and I think it's really just because like that's my therapy. That's how I'm able to get out all of those harsh feelings and thoughts. So a lot of it just comes from that, but to me, it's always been about what, in my opinion, what the music calls for. So if it's something really intense, just singing or just like talking over it isn't going to be enough. You need something to really match the intensity. So I think a lot of the time with, especially with some of our older stuff, it was really just about matching or more or less harmonizing with what was going on. So that was kind of the whole idea behind that. But yeah, it's just really just been just at this point, it's just autopilot mode. Once I hear the song, it just, I kind of go off in my own little world. So it's just, it's just been a slow evolution into what it's become.
I think it's really cool that you kind of made the point that like yeah it sounds aggressive but this is the way that you work through things. This is your therapy, like like I feel like that's one of the reasons why like you see all these big like heavy metal dudes at the show and they're the nicest people that you're gonna ever meet
Yeah,
because like the way that they're getting their frustration out is through music and not through something that would be like actually like I don't know, heavy and violent sounding.
yeah. And I think that's for a lot of us, that's what heavy music has been. It's been a saving grace for us because I know for me, if I didn't have, especially Corn is my absolute favorite band. If I didn't have Corn in those early years, I really don't know what I would have done to myself, or it's just it's kind of scary when you think about things like that, but it really does help to have something there to go to. And I grew up a real isolated kid, so like if I couldn't go to anybody, I could always go to my music. I could always put on a CD, and it would make me feel better. So I think that was just naturally where all of that stuff came from, really.
I understand because that's kind of what content created like, making things like this like is for
Yeah,
me. Like, it's a place where I can talk about the things. Like, we're talking about finding a place to put I guess your energy
yeah,
essentially. Like, that's not something that I talk about on a daily basis, but like I
right.
could talk about that on the internet and the internet will always listen to me, but
Yeah,
like, I might not be able to find someone to talk about it here every day with. So it's an interesting and like a different way to like obviously do that, but like you found music, I found this, and it's something that people can find an outlet for. Like they can find an outlet for their feelings and they can find an outlet for their thoughts. So I'm glad that you found one.
Yeah, yeah. I don't really know what else I could. I mean, that's the thing too, that you always, for a lot of people, you gravitate towards what you're really good at, and I wouldn't personally say I was ever really good at this. Everything I've done at this
I
point,
think he's pretty good.
everything I've done at this point, I just had to really practice and rehearse and get to this, you know, because to me, I don't think it's talent. I truly feel like it's just hard work. And again, it's not me like patting myself, but like, no, I just really feel like I personally, because Cameron is such a great songwriter, he's so good. I really feel like I kind of have to prove myself almost like every single time when a song comes out. So I think that kind of gives me the fire to sort of like really amp it up or to just really keep it interesting. So if I didn't have that, I mean, I don't, who knows, but yeah.
Well, that's actually a very good segue. So tell me a little bit about writing with Cameron. Like, how do you guys collaborate together?
So it's the strangest thing. Like I said, we've been friends since high school, and since high school, we have tried multiple times to get something going. So I joined my first band when we were like 16 years old, and at the time, I tried to really get him to join, and it just was one of those things where we were the older guys, they were the younger guys, and we just it just you know, separate interests and whatnot. It just didn't work. And then a few years down the road, I joined another group, and again, same thing, but this time they were more closer to our age, but for whatever reason, it never happened. So after like about a year or two, Cameron ended up moving to Austin over here, and I followed him maybe about a year later. I'm actually over here in San Marcos, but it's, you know, maybe about an hour away, so it's not too far of a distance. But it was kind of just a thing that we were always really supportive of each other. We were always big fans. I've loved his music since the beginning, since the MySpace days. That's how far we go back. He used to post his demos on the MySpace music players, and I would download every single one of them. Loved it. I've always been a fan of his music, so I always knew I wanted to work with him. I just didn't know how it was going to happen. And then when I moved to San Marcos, I tried like hell to get a band going. I met a couple of different drummers, one guitar player. It just fell flat. It just fell flat. And just out of nowhere, one day back in like 2015, Cameron just sent me this demo. He would always send me demos, but for whatever reason, this one day I was just like, I can kind of like hear like some lyrics, you know, I can kind of like hear, and then 30 minutes later, I'm in my little closet booth, like recording a little demo. I send it to him. He went crazy, and after that, we were just sending demos back and forth, and then about 3 years in, we're like, okay, I feel like we kind of have our footing here. We have an idea of where we want to go with our sound. Let's put it out there and see where it goes. So that's whenever we dropped Echoes of Eternity, our first one, and then just been off to the races ever since.
That's really cool. And I love that you have history. Like, because I feel like there's some people in my life that it's like, oh, I was at this thing that you were at like 5 years ago. And it's like, oh my God, like, there's lore there. There's so much lore.
You know what's
Um,
that we actually brushed up on our YouTube channel. We did a special, I guess, video or whatever for like each of our releases. So when Echoes of Eternity, when we did the re-release, we put out a special for it, and in the special we actually, because this is what's crazy about it. Me and Cameron actually used to live in the same small little town, and we actually used to, which we didn't even realize that, you know, back then. But he would actually live like a few blocks down from me. So a couple of years back when we were visiting our old town, we actually go around the streets and kind of reminisce. It's all on there for anyone who actually wants to, hear the whole story. But yeah, we've literally been like almost neighbors in high school and no idea about it. And then it's really, really weird how some things like come back in your life like that. Like that wasn't a lot of the music that we've written to. I've always been in a situation where like something's not going right, and then out of nowhere, Cameron's like, "Hey man, I got this new song. You wanna? If you have anything to add to?" I'm like, "Dude, exactly what I needed right now. So a lot of that's happened more often times than I can think of, but like it's just crazy how some things, because I'm not a big believer in like things happen for a reason. I mean, yeah, maybe sometimes, but there's so much craziness in the world. It's kind of hard
Hmm.
to always believe in that. But the situations within our group, it just makes me believe like there almost is greater forces working for us. So I don't know, but either way, yeah, I'm just happy. I'm just happy, it all worked out the way it did.
I'm glad to hear it because it sounds like a really good and healthy collaboration. When you guys are writing, like, how do you guys divide up, like, the creative? Like, what does he bring to you, or what do you bring to him when you're putting a song together?
So this is another really crazy thing about us. So since we've been friends in school, we have gotten together on multiple occasions to just jam. Just we set up
Yeah,
guitars. He has like a little drum machine or whatever, and we'll around. We have done that. I'm not even kidding, for like 3 or 4 years. Like we were just even when I first moved to San Marcos, he would come over and we would just open jam and kind of see what we could make. And I tell you, not a single we never could just retain a single song, a single riff. For whatever reason, it never worked out. And then when we started this, he more or less just recorded a full-fledged song. He's like, here, it's complete. Do with it what you can. So for whatever reason, that seems to be the only process that works for us. So the music that you hear, the music that everyone hears, that's how it's given to me. It's complete by the time I'm ready to write lyrics to it. So it's just kind of like more or less just little exchanging notes back and forth. If he's kind of stuck on finishing a song, then he'll ask for my feedback. But more often than not, he'll just send it straight to me. So it's
that's
for
awesome.
whatever reason, that's the only way it works. That's the only way we've been able to really keep songs going. And I couldn't tell you why, but every single song that we produced, we were never in the same room together writing it. We were never in the same room recording it. It's always been a complete separation. But for whatever
Mm.
reason, that's what's worked for us. The years that we've tried to, it's just I don't know. Again, I can't tell you why it works this way, but it does. So we've just never questioned it. So we just keep it keep it that way.
Hey, as long as it works and it's doing a good job, it doesn't really matter as long as you're getting the result, right?
If it ain't
So,
broken,
yeah, it ain't broken. I wanna move a little bit forward in the conversation. I know that you guys have some music out, and I know that you guys have also embraced creating content. So can you tell me a little bit about, like, what people can find out there, and, like, why you embraced creating content?
well, I think just kind of rolling with the way things are going now. Albums really aren't the way they. So I think it kind of lends itself, especially independent like us, to really just stick with focusing on one single or focusing on a couple of different singles and kind of just promote just little by little. And I think with social media and everything, there is a bit of a double edged sword to it because you really can get a lot of eyes and ears on you, but the attention span is also like that. So if you don't have something to grip people within 10 seconds, you're gonna have a really hard time. So I think for us, it was just sort of embracing all of the different changes that have been going on and kind of just sort of not following along, but sort of keeping that in mind, but also still doing our own thing because I feel like it's really important to keep your not your not like who you are, but personally, but like the persona of your group. Like you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're putting out is something that you can either back up or it's something that really speaks to your character or like, oh, is this something that you would do kind of thing. People that personally know you know what I mean? Like, because
Mm-hmm.
authenticity always sleeps through. You can always tell when someone's full of shit. You can always tell when someone's being, no pun intended, sincere about it. So I think it really just depends on where you draw the line. Really, some people are like, I don't want to touch social media. I don't want anything to do with that. Other people hit the ground running and do every single little thing they possibly can. To me, I always try to find a balance in between and kind of just follow along that. I think for us, it's more about kind of carving our own path. Obviously, that takes a lot longer, and you usually don't have as big of an audience behind you. But I feel like in the long run, that will benefit us, more than just jumping into the latest trend of whatever's going on now.
Trey, that is literally the ethos of what I talk about on my channel, like all the
Oh yeah,
time. So I'm glad that that's the way that you guys are embracing things, because that's the way that, I think that is the most successful these days, because
yeah,
people want to know people, and people want to know the people in the bands that they are listening to. So
yeah,
the fact that you are making sure that everything comes back to you guys is
yeah.
really important, and that's how you build and retain a very strong audience. So
Yeah.
I applaud you on that.
Thank you. And I also think too, like I just remember when I was a kid, and like that's what's crazy. Like the kids nowadays, I mean, I don't want to sound like an old, but like they really do have it made so well because I would have killed to have the platforms to like just deep dive into all of my favorite bands, find all these obscure interviews, all of these old live videos, music videos behind the scenes. Like it's just so amazing that like you can deep dive into anything like that. So like I remember like myself as a kid like being a being just in awe. Like if I got a magazine with like Slipknot on the cover and I could read an
Mm-hmm.
actual interview, like little things like that. So I always try to remember that whenever we're like pushing stuff forward, like with the way we present our content or whatever. I always try to remember that because that was what always that's what always like that was the allure to me, like when I was watching like Horn's home video or Slipknot's home video, like that was always the thing. Like you want to know more, but you also like
Yep.
there's just something about that I don't know.
I think that's something that people forget often, because I was actually having these thoughts earlier, and I'm glad that it came up in one of the interviews, because like, even though like you're making all of these videos and you're making all of these things and you're making all of these music choices, whether it's the albums, the singles, all of these like different things,
Mhm.
you may not see that manifesting in your immediate surroundings or your life, but online you might have some diehard fans like out
Yeah,
there that really love your music and really support you, but like, it's not someone that you're going to see walking down the street. So people get discouraged
exactly.
because like they don't see it immediately happening in their life. But I know, at least in my case, and maybe you can speak to this too, like, I committed to doing all of the things that I've been doing online, and I've been starting to see the changes, because
Yeah,
people see and talk about you in a different way when you're making things that are authentically you.
absolutely. Yeah, and really a lot of it comes down to just really betting on yourself. You really have to invest everything. If you're gonna go into something, you have to dive all into it. And people see that. People gravitate towards that because, like you said, like it people want something that they can relate to, especially like when you're watching these behind the scenes and all these videos. If you're like, oh, I think like that, or oh, that same thing happened to me. Like when you have those sort of situations, it brings you closer. So I think all of that, all of it is, yeah, all of it helps. I think in a way.
100%. So I know that you guys are working on some things in the background. So what do you guys have going on? At
So
least this should be coming out in like the summer.
okay, so as of right now, we are in writing or recording our debut album, which it's slated to be titled Arrival, which is why we released our EP just recently called Departure. It's sort of a segue, an introduction
Ah,
to,
I
yeah,
see.
Arrival. Yeah, yeah. So originally, it just started out as that. Originally, we just wanted to put out an EP, 5 or 6 of our like best songs, and that was kind of it. And then just over time, the songs just started pouring out, and before we knew it, we had like 12 or 13. And we're just like, these are all good. Like, I mean, we can't just put them all out, but we
Hmm.
can't just let these all sit here. So like, it was kind of a toss up of what we were going to do, and I just feel like at this point, we're 5, almost 6 years into the game. You know, all of the knowledge we've accumulated from recording, from engineering, mixing, mastering, and now that we're actually going to a professional recording studio where we have an engineer at our disposal, where all of the anything that we want, we can just put it right then and there. So I think having all of that experience and everything has really led us to this moment. And it's led me to believe that we really can do this. We really can put out a noteworthy album. And to be honest, it's all consuming. Like this is literally the one thing, well, not the one thing, but it's one of the many things I think about every single day. I do not, there's not a day goes by that since we started this that I haven't thought about this album. So everything is, everything is being, looked through with the fine comb and everything. So like, it's, yeah, it's, we're really, I feel like we're really hitting a stride with our songwriting now more than ever. I know a lot of bands say that. A lot of bands are like, "This is the best stuff we've ever written," and I mean, it's cliche, but like, I really do feel like we're so confident with what we're doing right now. I feel like we're finally finding our footing. We're finding who we are, like completely. And I think that's why it's appropriate that we've named it Arrival, because Arrival really is coming to this coming to this point where we realize this is who we are, this is what we want to do, and this is nothing's going to stop us. We've accepted this as who we are. So it's kind of more like a statement of that as opposed to like anything else. But that's the plan as of 2024 is getting this record out. So hopefully by the time your audience sees this, it should be either out or it's nearing completion. So yeah, we're very very stoked to get this up.
Awesome. I'm really excited to hear it because like everything I've heard from you guys has been like, in my opinion, like up here. So like, with someone at your disposal, I can't wait to see the ideas that you guys are able to achieve with that. So I'm happy to hear that you're evolving. You know what I mean?
And it's great too. I think having this engineer in particular, Chris, I want to give a little shout out. Chris Sinkamani, he's out of Austin too. He's got his own little project and stuff going on too. But I feel like it was very important for me to find the right person to work with because prior to going to Spitshine Studios, um, most of the recordings we did, well, most of the recordings I did for my vocals were at my old recording studio, 1090 Studios, which is in Fort Lavaca, Texas, which is a little bit outside of Corpus Christi area. But I was for the first 2 years, I was always going over there, and um, well, the engineer that was assisting me was actually my other half that was helping me run that studio, Jonathan Hawk.
Ah.
So it was just like having my brother in the other room, just touching knobs for me and everything. So it was a very easy relationship to have. So when I met Chris, we got off to a pretty great start, but now I mean it's like every time I go in there, we're always cutting up, we're always shooting the shit, we're always just making ridiculous references to shit that neither one of us knows about. So the vibe is so great, and I feel like it's so comforting that when I go in there, if I do fuck up, like there's no pressure, there's no like I don't feel like I need to be on my best behavior. Like I feel like I can just be me. I can be free. I can be as crazy or as like stout. However it is I want to approach it. He's totally 100% on board with me, and it's great too to have someone there who's not afraid to tell you, yeah, maybe you need to do that again, or yeah, that's not going to work. Like you need somebody to not sugarcoat shit for you. So I'm so grateful I found him, and we've had such a great relationship, and I think it also helped too that he's not really a metal guy. So it's
Mm.
hear you say that like because I know the song that we sent to you that actually was the very first song that Chris mixed and mastered for us.
Oh,
So
cool.
very interesting because I wanted an outside ear. I wanted somebody who wasn't necessarily a metal or a hardcore guy because they're going to hear shit that we don't even listen for.
Oh yeah.
Little nuances within the mix that kind of sit how they sit. Like you want someone different like that because as much as I love metal, the genre is pretty cut and dry. A lot of bands end up sounding like each other, and it's not even because of the way they play; it's because of their production.
Yep.
So was very important. So I think now that we have him, and now that he's getting very well in tune with how we play our style, because he notices the stylized
Oh yeah.
rhythms and everything. So he's very keen to that. So yeah, it's again we're firing on all cylinders here. It's like an all time high as far as like the morale with us. So we couldn't be more excited to get shit going.
Oh, I'm excited to hear this, and it's actually the same approach that he does that I do with my clients as like a video producer, because I have like certain clients that they know I'm gonna tell them if they did something wrong, or like
Yeah,
in the editing, you see that I like picked up on the nuances of what their band does, so like the cutting matches the way that the band represents themselves. So I take those initiatives as well because I prefer, like, not that I don't want new clients, but I prefer to work with the same person multiple times because
right.
then I already know who they are at like a base level starting the project instead of having to figure it out by the end of the
Yeah.
project. So I'm glad that you have someone that you can trust and that you can build that with. But
Mm,
with that being said, I got to move to my last question that I ask everybody.
all right.
Um, and you could take this in any direction that you'd like. So, if you had advice for someone that's getting into music now, what would be your advice?
Oof. Okay. Um, my advice would be, and I think this is probably just from my past experiences, don't half-ass anything. Don't settle for less than what you want. I think to me that is the most important thing. Whether it comes to working with others in a band, whether it comes to production style songwriting, we'll get it later in the mix. We'll deal with him for now, and then we'll find somebody. Cut it, cut it. Don't settle for anything less than the best, because you can waste a lot of time on somebody, on something, and then one day it just may not be there anymore, and then you're back at zero. I feel like if you want something, you gotta just go all in with it. I mean, I think that's really all I got. I mean, yeah,
I think
it's so
that's good
hard.
advice. That's very good advice.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, it's with this business ever changing, evolving so rapidly, even just the last few years, it's hard to really pinpoint what's the most important way to navigate things. But I would just say, yeah, surround yourself with like-minded people and just don't settle. Don't settle. That's the only
100%.
stuff. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. So, Trey, where can they follow Sincere? Where can they find your music? And yeah, where can we see Sincere?
Pretty much, our username is the same anywhere. I know the links are a little crazy now. Sincere.music, pretty much anything. Sincere.music.bandcamp.com. Uh, Twitter.com/sincere music. I still call it Twitter. I don't care.
It's Twitter at
Yeah,
heart.
it is. It really is. Facebook, pretty much anything. And the cool thing is that if you go to any one of our social media sites, we have a link tree set up. So you have links to literally every single streaming platform, our YouTube channel, our previous podcast episodes, anything you want to know about us, it's all there. So pretty much just search up Sincere, Google, we'll be up there. I know there's a movie called The Sincere, but we'll be right beside it. We'll be right there.
That's really funny. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Trey.
I
I know that we had an awesome conversation before
I
the
had a
interview, but we also had an awesome conversation in the interview.
I had a blast. Thank you so much. And again, like I'm sure other people have told you this, but like you're so awesome for doing what you're doing for other bands. Like stuff like this is the shit that I dreamed about doing, like when I was younger, like being interviewed and talking about my music and stuff. It's like a dream to me. So I just want to say thank you for all your hard work. We really appreciate all the shit you do for us. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I've been really trying real hard to like, do right by everyone and make sure
Oh
that
yeah,
I can like, figure out a way to have everyone kind of be able to get their story out there. That's my whole thing, helping people
every,
get their
every,
stories out there.
yeah, for sure.
So, guys, make sure you guys follow Sincere and I will see you on the next interview. Bye guys.